Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl YayorNayyy, aka YayorNayyy. Today I wanted to bring you all a different kind of video where I take you along just a small journey of how I got into yoga and why I decided to become a yoga teacher. The first time that I ever tried yoga was in college, and I believe that this was my freshman year of college. And I remember taking just this random yoga class with one of my good friends, Tiffany, and it was just like a random school day in the afternoon, and I was pumped because I had already had my purple yoga mat that my mom had gifted to me for Christmas a few years back, and I probably had that yoga mat for some time without it even being used. I don't remember so much about the class. I just remember us kikiing it up, laughing, and it was only like myself and maybe, one other person in the class along with the instructor, and it was one of those typical yoga classes. And we didn't take it serious at all. We just wanted to do something fun for the day. That was my first time ever doing yoga. I probably didn't even have a care in the world about what it all entailed, the philosophy, the history behind it, even taking it for the practice for what it actually is. When I decided to move to New York, which was after I graduated from undergrad in 2013, I was working for AmeriCorps for my first year living in New York. And if you don't know too much about AmeriCorps, specifically I was working with AmeriCorps Vista, Volunteers in America. And basically you volunteer to work for a nonprofit that is in need, but essentially they can't afford to pay you, so hence the volunteering part. So you're volunteering yourself to live on the poverty line. And in New York City, they did, well, where I worked, they did try to, they couldn't pay you outright, but they did try to give you some other kind of compensation. So I would get free monthly Metro cards. That free Metro card is a winner, especially in New York City. If you don't know, that is probably the most thing that you could ever be grateful for, is a free monthly unlimited Metro card. So with that Metro card, I don't know how I came across this, but I was always finding free things to do. So one of the free things that I would always do was I would go to Athleta on the Upper East Side, and they will always have free classes, and they still do. Check your local Athleta. They always have free classes where they would basically invite instructors in to just teach for the evening. So I was always there, and that was probably the second time that I had done yoga. And I remember it being a little bit more, I was more aware of what was happening. It wasn't much of a blur, but even then I still didn't know too much about it. From there on out, I just began taking just small little pop-up classes here and there. Also at Athleta, when you would take a class, whoever would come to teach the class, they would give you a voucher to go to their studio to take another free class. So it was like free winning all the time. After that, I began working for Girls Inc. of New York City, which is another nonprofit. This time I was getting paid. This was after my 1-year contract with AmeriCorps was over. And one of my angelic, she's truly an angel. I will never forget the day that I met her, which was the first day of Girls Inc. orientation. And I felt like that oddball because she was the first person. Her name is Chantel, and I'll insert her handle here. You know, when you go to the movies or you're on a train or whatever the case, a public space, and there's nobody else in there, there's so much room, and there's one person sitting there, or you're that one person, and then somebody just comes and sits next to you. That was me. So Chantel was the first person in the room, and it was a whole bunch of open seats for the orientation, and I don't know, I just gravitated towards her, and to this day she knows that it's just something about her that I've always loved, and I can't put my finger on it, but I just have to say that she's a godsend. So from that moment on, I just knew that I kind of had to stay near her, and she was always very kind to me, very friendly. As our time went on during our Girls Inc. career, I think it was about both of our going into our second year of being in Girls Inc. Then her and I started working together at one of our site schools. At the beginning we were working at different site schools under one umbrella, but this time we were brought back together at one school in East Harlem. And she was telling me that she was in yoga teacher training. And when she told me that, I was just like, what? You can do that? And she was like, yeah, it's a 6-week program. I'm doing it for the winter, and I'll have my 200-hour yoga teacher certification. So after that, I can teach anywhere. And I'm like, cool, noted. So she also shared with me that the school, which is called Three Sisters Yoga, which I still hold very, very dear to my heart, that they were having an open class for prospective students to come in and just get a taste of the program. So I gladly volunteered to go, and I went and I participated in the first hour of their practice, and I just fell in love with the community, the atmosphere. It was just so bubbly and just so open and free. And I'm like, okay, I definitely want to do this. But when I looked at that price tag, sis, that thing said $3,000, close to $3,000. And me at the time living in New York City, paying rent and paying student loans and just trying to survive, I knew it just didn't seem possible at the time, but I just knew that I wanted to do it. Going into my second half of being in New York, so I was there for a total of 3 years. So I would say that that kind of happened between the first year and a half, and so me deciding to make that conscious decision happened within the second half. So while I was still working with Girls Inc., one of the curriculums that I was doing for the after school program was a mind body wellness type of curriculum, and it was not really much. It wasn't even a full curriculum, it just was random activities. And so my boss at the time encouraged me to just, she's like, you're creative, just, do what it is that you love and bring it forth. So I think that's pretty much what sparked my love for wellness. Was, I don't know where it came from, it just happened where I just wanted to be intentional about my health physically, and then it kind of turned into a mental thing. And everything that I began to practice within myself, DIYs and affirmations and then yoga, I would take that time for me to research it for the girls so that I could also research it for myself and learn and practice on my own. So I took advantage of the fact that I had time and space to create something and share with young girls, and also basically teach myself. So I just got on Pinterest and I just started looking up yoga poses, and I created like a whole yoga club. And again, I didn't know much more other than that yoga was poses, but the girls, they liked it. And I even had this principal come in and join, and she was like, I thought it was going to be a little bit more. But when she said that, I honestly didn't know what that meant. I realized also that as I was saving up my coins and also doing my own research, that when I would travel throughout the city, the only type of people that I would see doing yoga were middle-aged white women. And even the classes that I would pop in and out of only had middle-aged white women. They didn't have people that looked like me. So I was very curious, and I felt that the main reason for me to do this was because there weren't people that looked like me. And when I was able to afford to go to the 200-hour yoga teacher training for the summer, I then got in and My cohort was amazing. There were people that looked like me, and even some of the other students from past cohorts would kind of pop in and they would also look like me, and we would even have conversations. And my cohort, my peers and classmates, when I would share my experiences of working with minority girls, they're like, you know, they need someone like you that looks like them, and you know, the encouragement that you're able to share with them, and the stories that you share, and your passion and your heart is just so big that this is something that is for you. That really drove me. That drove me so hard to just do it. To do it for, not just for myself, but to just also be a representative for other women of color and people of color and African American people to learn about yoga. So once I got into the training, I learned quickly that yoga was way deeper than poses. And although my training was very intense, and the name of it was a 6-week intensive, my body was hurting so bad from the practice that we did, the hours that we spent within the 6 weeks. We would meet Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, four days out of the week for 4 to 8 hours. And we would practice yoga physically. We would have discussions. We would read texts. We would read books. We would have to do practicals. And we would have discussions. And my mind just began to open just so much to what yoga was and what it was that I didn't see. I also knew prior to me beginning the training, there was just something in me telling me that it was time for me to move back home to Baltimore. And I don't know, other than the reason why, it was because every time I came home, I didn't see yoga happening here in Baltimore. If anything, I would go to DC and I would see more people that looked like me doing it, but here in Baltimore, not many people were talking about yoga. So my mission was literally to bring yoga back home. And after completing my yoga teacher training, I did just that. It was like a week or two after I was done, I packed up, I rented a Jeep and I packed it up and I came home. And before I started my business, I was doing classes in little studios around, and I thought that people would be as excited as I was about me bringing yoga here, or just being that guide to practice yoga as I was. But when I got home, it was kind of like crickets. Not many people were eager to begin a yoga practice, and I think it was because of the stigma behind yoga being woo-woo and it being spiritual. And the biggest misconception of it is yoga being a religion, and that is completely false. Yoga is just simply a practice that allows you to connect your mind to your body. It is a practice that is bigger than poses, as I've learned through the 8 limbs of yoga, that there are many ways that you can practice yoga on and off of the mat. And for me, through my experiences, as I experienced bringing yoga home, that a lot of people don't know, but for me, my personal practice of yoga is more so heavily weighted in my meditation practice than it is my physical practice. And I love the physical practice. I think it's so beautiful. I think that it is a beautiful expression of art through the body, and just creativity, and the way that the body can just do things that is beyond our own limits, not even our imagination, but just our own limits. I think that's beautiful, but so is our mind. Our mind is something that we don't really use to the greatest capacity, and at a young age of 24, 25, like I just really wanted to figure out who I was. I didn't just decide to be like, oh, meditation, this is a thing for me. It literally just happened. I would just come home, and the first app that I ever used for meditation was Headspace. I would come home and just fall into a meditation practice without it. Just was second nature to me. And one of the things that I recently realized is that I have been meditating in the same space since I've gotten home within my house. So there's a lot of magic in the space that I've meditated in, but I'm going to save that, my meditation practice and my meditation experiences, for a different video, because that's a whole nother in-depth, but we're just going to keep it surface level. Ultimately, that's why I got into yoga, because I felt like, one, I wasn't being represented. I didn't see or find people doing during the early 2013, 2014, all the way up until like 2016. 2016, I really feel like things really started to emerge, but before then, it was kind of quiet. So I'm really appreciative for how much yoga has grown within the community of people of color, and that we're coming to be more open about having this practice as a daily practice and also as a lifestyle. And that is another thing, is that somewhere along the line, yoga wasn't a hobby for me. It just naturally transitioned into my lifestyle, something that I began to live every day, again, off of the mat, something that I could just use to continue to deepen my spirituality and even my own personal religion, and question the things that I didn't understand growing up, and seek my own truths, and just become open to truths and messages that allow me to become who I am, and allow me to come into alignment with people who are supposed to be in my life, whether they're here for a season or whether they're here for even a lifetime. Just being open to the flow of life, and ultimately standing out of my way. When my anxiety came, I was able to, aside from therapy, yoga has also been a really good tool for me to use. Again, something that I can fall back on and use as just a daily lifestyle practice, breathing, meditating, being mindful, releasing my body, taking time to just be still and observe. All of those things that we often get sidetracked by the daily responsibilities of life, the daily distractions, our phones, social media, carrying around other people's problems, or feeling like we're obligated to be a soundboard for just any and everybody, and then neglecting ourselves and our own self-care. And that's what my mission is. Well, one of my missions is to just allow people to become aware of their own mental power and what they have to take care of their self, their well-being, and their community, and then to also enlighten people to seek a balance of wellness, mind, body, and spirit, to inspire people to go on that quest and wander to find who they are, and seek that, to even find God further, whether it's, God or the universe or Mother Nature, or whoever their higher being is. Just being open to surrendering to your ego and standing in your way and fear. knowing that there's something out there that's bigger than you to allow you to live your best life, not just as a cliche, but truly align with your purpose and running that through your passion and your art and your creativity and just being that vessel. Ultimately, that's what yoga is knowing that we are a vessel and that we are light, and that light shines through us so that we can shine through others. And this is me shining my light through so that hopefully I can touch someone with my light, and so that they can shine their light through others, whether it's through yoga on the mat or off of the mat. I hope that this video inspires someone to just reconsider yoga, or even get a little bit more of an insight of maybe why someone will want to join yoga. This is my story, and so that's all I have to share. It was super random. I've actually been wanting to do this video for a few years, so here I am getting out of my own way. But I hope that this helps someone, and I hope that this also inspires someone. And that's my phone, because the outside world is ready for me. But I will catch you all in another video. Namaste. Peace.